You keep
What
mentioning the
is...
Discordian Pope thing. Can you go over Discordianism?
Yes.
So,
Discord, I'm having at the moment.
this is very much in my wheelhouse. Um, it turns out that not only am I a Discordian Pope, so are all of you. Bet you didn't know that.
Does that mean
Discordia,
we're all the witch pope?
No,
no,
Discordianism
is not witchcraft, even a little bit. Discordianism is a. So, it started out as probably a parody religion. Um, Although that's somewhat unclear given the people who developed it. Um, it has since morphed into a semi-coherent philosophy. I say semi-coherent for a reason, and I'll get to that. And an ideology that a lot of sort of the more psychedelic New Age practitioners follow, a lot of chaos magicians incorporate elements of because it turns out to be useful. Philosophically, there's a fair amount of overlap. And
a
some,
fair amount of overlap.
I mean, it's not 100%.
No, but just it's more than fair. Okay, I guess that depends on the chaos magician, but
For a lot of chaos magicians, there's an enormous amount of overlap.
yeah.
Um, the basic philosophy of Discordianism as it exists today is this: there is the principle of order, the principle of disorder, the illusions of both of the above, and the principle of chaos.
You really think you're in control?
Um,
This is an ongoing joke from Discordianism online, which is the who is in control? Are you in control? Is someone else in control? When you think that you're in control, are you really in control? Or is that you fooling yourself? And it gets very recursive.
it gets incredibly recursive.
And meta.
So I'm just going to sort of cover those 5 ideas. The principle of order, otherwise known as the principle of apparent order, or the aneuristic principle, if you've been reading way too much Robert Anton Wilson.
What? Never.
Which I definitely went through a phase of. Says, sorry, says that order is a way of imposing a worldview onto the chaos that is the true nature of reality. And the metaphor that gets used is that you're looking through a window, and it has one of those old style wooden lattice grids on it. That grid is your order. It is based on your worldview and your perspective. And no one grid, no one order is more or less true than any other, but they provide a useful frame of reference for trying to look at what's out there and partition it into manageable pieces and give it a structure by which it can be viewed.
It should be noted that the chaos of Discordianism is not the chaos of the modern misinterpretation of the scientific idea of chaos.
No, it is somewhere between the actual scientific idea and the ancient Greek idea.
Yes, which basically the idea being there is a layer of reality upon which all else is built, whose rules we cannot fully understand, which makes it look inherently messy and Discordian to us.
Right.
So kind of like
And-
the background noise of the universe.
Right.
Well, it's very much like the
In a way, but not really.
The
what
state-
is
the state of
chaos to
reality
the fly
cannot-
is order to the spider.
Right. Reality plays by rules and a deeper capital T truth that we as humans do not and cannot understand. We instead.
Which doesn't mean stop trying, which is
No.
one of my favorite things about Discordianism.
Okay, I'll talk about Operation Mindfuck in a minute.
Okay.
It's actually called that.
It is.
So, she actually basically also covered the illusion of order here, where the illusion of order is that this principle of order that is you using your brain and your cultural perspective to impose some kind of order on the chaos of reality is false. This is not true. It may be useful, but it is not true. The idea of disorder, otherwise known as the heuristic principle, is that disorder is also an artificial construct imposed on chaos, on this underlying order of the universe.
But this is what gets to me, is that people go, oh, I'm a Discordian, which means that I believe in chaos. And
yes,
it's like,
you do, and you don't know what that means.
right, because the third frickin' principle.
Or second, depending on how you count.
Okay. All right. In the original, it's the second, right? Okay. So the second principle is that what we perceive as this completely messy, there is no reason, there is no logic, there is no order, is also an illusion.
Yeah, that the apparent.
When we start stomping around going, everything tends towards entropy and nothing matters and all is the bad misunderstanding of anarchy, we're also falling for an illusion.
So basically, going by the definition of order that we used, which is that it's a construct that you put in place to try and understand some of what's happening in chaos, capital C. Anything that does not fit into that false pattern is therefore disorder. But because the pattern, the order, is illusory, so is the disorder.
Right. Okay, I'm going to give you a very real world example. When Republicans start saying, but if we treated human life as if it had intrinsic value and we fed and clothed and housed everyone, it would be chaos. They have their idea of order. They have their idea of disorder. Neither of them is the reality of the universe.
And so we sort of already covered the illusion of disorder as well. Then you have the principle of chaos, which we basically also already covered. That the true nature of the universe is chaos, where chaos is is true, capital T, reality, and does not care about your order or disorder, your perspective on the world, and in fact cannot.
Stars will still be born. Black holes will still,
will still eat them.
Will still eat them.
And they
time will be the wibbly wobbly mess that it actually is, which we will continue perceiving in a mostly straight line, regardless of whether it actually is a straight line. It will just keep going.
Discordianism absolutely hates Western philosophy and vice versa, because Western philosophy is basically, they say, is basically concerned with trying to find the true version of order through which to view the universe, when they believe that all of the illusions of order are false.
One of the things I love about Discordianism is its perspective on gender, which is basically that gender roles are a form of order that we tack onto the universe from a social perspective, and it would laugh at them. It will continue making as many sexes in slime mold as it damn well pleases, and we will continue labeling them. But the idea that the universe will continue creating and destroying as it will, and we can decide that there are only two genders all we like, but it will laugh at that. I really like Discordianism.
Yeah,
I just don't call myself a Discordian Pope.
you are that. So the thing,
That's the only thing I don't like about Discordianism.
right, so according to, there's actually a book, you don't necessarily need to read it. In fact, it may help you to understand Discordianism better if you don't. Um, the Principia Discordia says that every person on the earth is deemed a pope. This was a direct response to Catholicism, where there is one super special pope who gets to tell you what is true. Um, you are all the pope, and as the pope, everyone gets to say what is true, because what is true for you and what is true for me are not the same thing, and that's okay.
It is the
Um,
idea of Discordianism is very fixated on a personal universe. And everyone has their bubble that they run around in, and
So let's talk about Operation Mindfuck.
okay, that leads into Operation Mindfuck very
Operation
well.
Mindfuck is basically the practice of popping people's bubbles, and it
So basically,
the
it
basic
starts
idea
sounding, if you're
is
very
that
shallow in Discordianism, if you have only just sort of dabbled in the chaos magician hermetic dude #1 end of the
in
Discordian pool, then you meet these assholes who are like, well, I have my personal universe and I have my truth and everything is chaos anyway, so I'll do whatever the fuck I like to you.
and it's okay, yeah, everything is chaos, but that doesn't mean that your truth is the only truth, or even that your truth is necessarily correct. Certainly not that it's correct for me. And you've now developed your own personal bubble based around being an egocentric asshole. Um,
Right.
rather than based off of your interpretation of reality as a whole, of which you are a very small part.
The whole idea of true Discordian philosophy is that you have to have opposition to those who run around saying, only my bubble matters.
Right.
And therefore, if you use Discordianism in order to say,
My
only
bubble
my bubble
matters. You are
matters,
completely missing the point.
and some other Discordian will come along and engage in Operation Mindfuck against you.
Now, the term got coined in the Illuminatus trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson and Robert Shea. For, in particular, Operation Mindfuck, in that involved spiking the water of a music festival with a massive amount of LSD, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
And also involves zombie Nazis. It's a really weird book.
A lot of Discordian writing
It's really weird.
is really weird.
Your version does not have to involve spiking people's drinking water with LSD.
When I
However,
describe myself as a Discordian, I describe myself as a Discordian humanist.
I have been known to do that, and it confuses the crap out of people.
Okay, so the idea is the universe will march ever onwards and do what it will. It will have stars swallow planets and black holes swallow stars, and everything that we learn will have to be unlearned as we learn the larger truths, and everything that appears to be two polar opposites often is not. The spectrum and the diversity of the universe is beyond our comprehension. And you can either decide that means that you should be an asshole,
or that you should find it brilliant and amazing. And the fact that we can understand this at all is incredible, and we need to keep understanding it and sharing it.
If all I have is my window, then I better hook up with your window. I better hook up with Tina's window. And we better get as many windows linked up and sharing perspectives as possible. And if, in the end, the universe will do as it will, including steamrolling over us, then the only thing that matters is how we help one another. And that may just be my personal universe, but it's my personal universe.
Basically...
Unfortunately, a bunch of Discordians are also sexist asshats.
That's true, too. So basically, Operation Mindfuck is the art of moving people out of the self-contained universe that they have constructed by introducing them, by prying open their head, by introducing them to a new concept, by creating an illusion of a situation that cannot fall within the world as they understand it, by playing relative, by I knew one Discordian who would dress in full period appropriate Victoriana, steampunk it up, and then run out of an alleyway with a smoke bomb, find the nearest person in a suit, grab their lapels and say, "Oh my god, I hope I'm not too late. What's the date?" Um, and essentially pry open their world a little bit with the idea that he was a time traveler from some strange steampunk future, um, or possibly past. Hard to say. And he would would do this with a friend who was dressed in street clothes and would watch that person's reaction and see how they responded to this. And he actually managed to successfully sort of shake people's worldview in a way that makes them pay a little more attention to what's happening outside of their own head, which is the point.
There are other ways to do Operation Mindfuck,
Yes, I just
including
like the trollish ones.
well, I know you do, but I'm trying to say, like, including just saying, hey, I know you're not trying to hurt anyone. I know you're not trying to be actively harmful. And I just want to give you some information because I feel like if you have it, you may understand the impact your actions have a little bit differently. Here is the information I have. And
do with it as you will.
do with it as you will. And I tend to finish that with, you didn't know before. And I can't control what you do going forward, but now you know. And I've done this with the definition of the F word, the G slur, the defining gender as two disparate poles, the erasure of intersex persons, basically just introduced information and then said, now you have it. And what you do with it is up to you. And in many cases, what those people have chosen to do, because I've stayed friends with them on Facebook or whatever, is turn around and tell someone else.
Yeah. Actually, you've got the one sentence version of this, because now we're in the South.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I don't believe Jesus would hold with that. And define being a humanist.
Okay.
Very basic level, a humanist is someone who believes in the potential of humanity.
Okay. So the problem is there are humanists who belong to one particular branch of humanism who insist that all humanists must be atheists. Because the person who coined the term humanism was an atheist. And there are humanists who say that all humanists must be agnostics. And I am an agnostic humanist, but that doesn't mean that I think you have to be a humanist. And then there are humanists who say, no, you can be a theological humanist.
There are actually a lot of Jewish humanists.
Right. There are theological humanists, specifically ones who are like, no, really, if there is a divine will or a divine power or a godhead of some kind, it made us because it wanted us to be here. And there was something that it would gain from us being here that involved us existing gestalt, separate from that divine will by some measure. Everyone measures that separation differently.
And in particular, something about us as humans that makes it worthwhile for us to exist.
And to interact with each other. Some lesson we are learning or teaching it. That's one of my favorites. That
yeah,
it
I
is
like that
learning
one.
something from us.
There was an amazing story that I need to find again. The one about how it's called the egg. I'm gonna see if I can find that now.
So
Moving on.
atheist humanism basically says humans are it. That's all there is. There's us. And what we do to each other, how we help each other, how we harm each other, is what defines our world. And we get one life to try. And during that life, what will linger here is the memory of how we loved and cared for one another and took care of one another, and how we advanced the species individually and on a species-wide level. So basically, By helping up the people around you when you've fallen, you have changed mankind in one instance for the better. And by taking the first step on the moon, you have changed mankind for the better. And that because there is nothing but what we do now, no afterlife to make it better.
Then you'd better make it count.
Right. That's atheist humanism. Agnostic humanism is basically, I don't know whether or not we reincarnate. I don't know whether or not the gods are watching us to help or hinder us.
Or just because we're funny.
Or because we're funny. I don't know whether or not a divine will put us here to learn and to help one another. I don't know whether a divine will is backing one version of us versus the other version of us. What I do know is that we can. We can learn and help one another. We can make the world a better place from moment to moment. We can decide that whether or not we get a cookie in the afterlife
is not as important
as whether we feed someone who is starving now. One of my favorite agnostic humanist perspectives is basically like, what if after everyone has run around doing everything that their holy books say will get them into heaven rather than hell, each of these people from all of these religions goes up to heaven and God says, yes, you did all that, but you did it for the wrong reason. You did it because the book said you would get a reward, not because you genuinely wanted to help one another. So regardless of whether your holy book tells you that there's fire and brimstone waiting for you if you don't, if this is all there is, regardless of punishment or reward at the end, how do you spend the now? And then theological humanism gets into, okay, if one of these gods made us, or if all of the gods are invested, if they're watching to punish, reward, help, hinder, or laugh, if we are someone's cable TV watching from the other world, what does that mean regarding our obligations to each other and to human progress? You know, if one of my favorite things out of theological humanism, say that Yahweh says,
for example,
kill these babies, kill these infants,
to pick something at random,
and you get to go to heaven. Don't kill these infants, and you get to go to eternal punishment for disobeying God. I believe, as someone who is standing in the middle ground between agnostic humanism and theological humanism, that you have an ethical obligation to tell God, no.
Right.
No, I will not kill this infant. And if it turns out that the creator of the universe wants me to kill babies, then I will find it my secondary ethical obligation to burn his throne down.
Right. I would classify myself as an adversarial theological humanist.
You're so Jewish. I say that as a person who is allowed to say that.
No, it's kind of true though. So, I will also make a note that one thing that I really dislike about some theological humanists is that they get into the theory of human exceptionalism.
Ugh.
Because God made us special with souls, and therefore humans are special, and
we have the right to
and we have the right to dominion.
And that ties into some fucked up capitalism stuff. I actually posted a model of this on our Facebook.
We do actually have a question for you later.
I posted a model on our Facebook. Basically how human exceptionalism leads to damage to the environment.
Oh yeah, this was the micro-macro stuff.
Micro-macro. That I highly encourage all of you to look at. Look at. Thank you. And I will try and remember to post it below the video.